How does a murder investigation end up in a place where nobody, not the police, not the prosecution, not the jury, maybe not even the victim's family, can say with any certainty what actually happened? I mean, in this one, we can probably guess at the most likely scenario, but even then I'm left with so many questions, and you probably will be too by the end of this video. Hey yo, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this whole video we're heading to Minot, North Dakota to take a look at a case that spent nearly 2 decades refusing to go away. It's one of those cases where the more you find, the more you read, the less certain, like, everything becomes.
A college student is dead. The knife was still on the bed, rinsed clean in the bathroom sink. The window screen had a slash through it, cut from the inside, and the front door locked. A lock that only worked with a key. 4 people had that key, and somehow, nearly 2 decades later, we still can't say with any real certainty which one of them turned it on the night of June 3, 2007. I mean, we can all guess at the most likely answer. You probably already are. But by the time we get to the trial, the TV circus, and the verdict that stunned absolutely nobody who was paying attention, I think you'll be left with the same uncomfortable feeling I had. So buckle up. Let's get into it.
Happened inside that apartment during the early hours of June 3rd, 2007. Buckle up, buckaroos! The case of Anita Knudson is simply a locked room mystery. A college girl found murdered inside her own locked apartment. Only 4 people had a key. One of those 4 people had a grudge. But this story has way more twists and turns than that.
Our story starts in Minot, North Dakota, a city of about 50,000 people, the 4th biggest in the state, which tells you everything you need to know about North Dakota. Minot is the kind of place where college kids rent cheap off-campus apartments, work 2 jobs, and still make it home to help their folks on the farm. That was Anita Knudson. Adopted as a baby, raised in California, then moved to her dad's hometown for high school.
Our story begins in Minot, ND. ND standing for actually no it doesn't. It really begins in Orange County, California. That's where Anita Knudson was born. Anita was adopted as a young'un to parents Gordon and Sharon when she was only 5 months old, living in Anaheim. One of 3 kids, all adopted. When she was 15 in the year 2002, she was moved to Butte, North Dakota, her dad's hometown, where she went to high school. She was very involved in local programs, sports, soccer, violin, drugs awareness. What didn't she do? I'll tell you one thing she didn't do. That was not write a book. She in fact wrote and published a book when she was in 8th grade. She was living in Butte, and what a Butte.
By 2007, she was a sophomore at Minot State University, studying to be an elementary school teacher. She hated kids, obviously. No, she adored them. Had written and published a children's book when she was in the 8th grade. She was busy, ambitious, the sort of person who held down a housekeeping job and a retail shift while carrying a full course load. When she wasn't working or in class, she was on the phone with her mom or driving an hour back to Beulah to see her family. So when that family couldn't reach her in early June, they didn't panic at first. Anita was always doing something.
This is Anita Knudson reporting live from North Dakota. There is a ginormous tornado coming towards us from the southeast. It is getting kind of bad.
Then the silence stretched. The last time anyone heard from her was a string of text messages in the early hours of Sunday, June 3rd. By Monday, her dad had a bad feeling. He drove to Minot, walked up to the apartment she shared with a friend named Nicole, and found Anita's car outside, locked. Peering through the bedroom window, he could make out a shape on the bed. He ran to the property manager, who let him in while 911 was on the line. The 911 operator asked if she was moving. Her father's voice broke. She's cold, and there's blood.
Anita spoke to her mom on Friday, June 1st, when she got home after work. Saturday and Sunday came and went, and soon she stopped responding. The last time anyone heard from her were some text messages in the wee hours of Sunday, June 3rd. It was on Monday, June 4th that her dad, getting a bit weird now, he decided to drive down over across to Minot and, just give her an L knock on the door. See if everything was okie dokie. By this stage, in her sophomore year, Anita was living off campus with a friend of hers, Nicole.
Inside the apartment, the scene was unsettling in a very specific way. Anita was on her bed, stabbed twice in the chest. There were shallow knife marks on her neck. The kind that suggest someone held the blade there, threatening her, making a point. The murder weapon was still present, washed and left in the bathroom sink. Her purse sat untouched with cash inside. No signs of sexual assault, no drugs or alcohol in her system, no indication of a struggle. The room was messy in an everyday sense, not a fight for your life sense. Whoever did this, Anita likely knew them, and she never saw it coming.
But it was only like a 3-minute drive from the university, and when her dad arrived, he saw her car outside, locked. However, peering into her bedroom window, he was able to make out a figure face down on her bed. Anita's dad ran to the property manager, banging on his door to be let into Anita's apartment, while 911 was called.
Is this a police department?
Yes, it is.
I had a father come to my apartment here to check on his daughter. We just came in the apartment. I think she's dead.
And what makes you think that, or is she moving?
No, she isn't. We came into the apartment. Her dad went over to her, and he goes, "Oh my God, she's cold and there's blood." That's what her father said. I didn't touch her, but I see there's blood on the blanket.
Now, about that locked door. The front door did not lock automatically when you closed it. You had to physically use a key from the outside. Anita's door was locked when her father arrived. So either the killer locked it behind them on the way out, or Anita had locked it herself before being attacked, which would mean the killer was already inside.
What happened to Anita Knudson? We're still having this question. Anita was very popular, hardworking, and active in the community person. What was done to her was pretty unthinkable. Unthinkable to most people, in fact, but someone had done more than thinkable. They had doneable. Anita was found on her bed in her bedroom. The screen over her window had been removed. It was slashed. Had someone broken in during the night through the window? Anita had been stabbed twice in the chest. She also had some slight knife marks to the neck, as if the killer had held the knife there before going in for the kill. The knife was still there on the bed. The room was messy by normal person standards, but it didn't seem like there had been a fight or a struggle in there, like Anita had been caught off guard. Her purse was there, cash inside the purse. Didn't look like a robbery. No drugs nor alcohol in her system. No signs of sexual assault either.
The window screen had been slashed, but the cut was made from the interior. The maintenance guy who removed that screen later told police it looked as though somebody had cut their way out, not in. And here's where the math gets tight. Only 4 keys existed. 1 belonged to Anita, 1 to her roommate, Nicole Thomas, 1 to the maintenance man, and 1 to the landlord. 4 keys, 4 possibilities.
Yeah, guys, we're back to board time. So either the killer got in through the front door or via the screen window, and they got in and out that way. Now, the front door, only 4 people had a key. Anita, Nicole, the maintenance guy, or the landlord. Police spoke to the maintenance guy first. He was the one who actually removed the screen when people showed up to Anita's place that morning. He had seen that it had been cut, and so he thought it was, damaged. He pulled the screen off, but he would say when he was removing the screen and Anita's body was just on the other side of the window, he would say he didn't look in the window, he didn't see anything, and it was very dark inside Anita's bedroom. She didn't actually get any light in it. Her window, as you can see in the videos, her bedroom window was on the side that was in the shade. He had no idea there was a dead body just a couple of feet away. But he would say that examining the screen and where the cut had been made, it looked to him more like somebody had cut their way out. Like the cut had been made from the inside going out, rather than somebody had been cutting to get in. So that meant that whoever cut the screen had already been inside the apartment, so it must have been someone with a key. Her roommate, the person who lived in that apartment, was called in. Nicole Thomas had been out of town that weekend, on her parents' farm, was only coming home when police called her to the crime scene.
The landlord and maintenance guy were looked at early. The maintenance man was the one who had pulled the screen off, and he initially said he hadn't peered inside the bedroom. Too dark, he claimed. He also felt the screen cut had been an exit wound, not an entry, but he had an alibi, and no obvious motive ever surfaced. The landlord was barely a blip. That left 2 people, realistically. And when you scratch the surface, one of them starts to look less like a grieving roommate, and more like somebody who couldn't keep her story from twisting like a cheap garden hose. Nicole Thomas told police she'd been out of town that weekend, staying at her parents' farm. She only came back when detectives called her to the crime scene. But over the years, the fine print of that alibi kept shifting. She was at the farm the whole time. Well, except she went drinking with friends in Minot on Saturday night. Actually, she had picked up her cousin for a party in Surrey. Wait, no. She helped serve food at a bar in Rousseau and got back to the farm around midnight. Her father told officers she'd been on the farm with him all day, which turned out to be not entirely accurate either. None of these adjustments are damning on their own. People misremember. But when every single retelling seems to nudge the timeline closer to the window when Anita was killed, it gets harder to call it a coincidence. And then there were the texts. Anita and Nicole had been butting heads for months. The flashpoints were almost comically petty. Anita's alarm clock would go off at 5 in the morning for her classes. And Nicole, who worked late shifts, would lose her mind over the lost sleep. Anita couldn't stand the noise from Nicole's fish tank and kept unplugging it, which, if you believe one version of events, eventually killed all the fish. They argued about Nicole bringing boys over.
Now time would go by. Tips came and went. 40 construction workers who worked nearby were interviewed. Questions came and went. People moved. Folk died. Michael died. The maintenance guy died. Alibis went alibi-bye. It was a weird time.
It's kind of frustrating that there's just this coward out there that just won't come forward and tell us that one piece of information we need to solve this.
I really feel somebody knows who did this.
A man would be arrested for a burglary a couple of days after the murder, and the burglary was like just down the road. This guy who was arrested for the burglary, he had a history of breaking and entering, trying to assault women in their own homes. But he would be found to not have been in Minot at the time she was murdered. Forensics found at the scene were all contaminated and led nowhere. It seemed likely the case would remain unsolved.
But the texts reveal something sharper than minor irritation. Nicole wrote to Anita, "Next time you leave and don't plan on coming back in the morning. Lock your door 'cause God knows I'm dying to get in there." And later, "I have no idea what I did to you to make you all of a sudden all weird on me. But I'm telling you right now, I ain't putting up with it till December." The tone is pure contempt, and that mention of the locked bedroom door lands differently when you know what happened next. Despite all this, the investigation stalled. Years passed.
Her family were left devastated. 6 years after Anita's death, her brother died by his own hand. He never got over his sister's murder. Family and friends, though, never gave up hunting the killer. In 2015, 8 years after the murder, they petitioned, eventually successfully, for the TV show Cold Justice to come in and take on the case.
Previously on Cold Justice.
Tips came and went. 40 construction workers who'd been working nearby were interviewed. The jogger who was spotted running near the crime scene at 5 in the morning turned out to be just a jogger. 2 of the key holders, the maintenance man and a man named Michael, the last person to text with Anita, eventually died. Alibis went alibi, as they do. Anita's family never stopped pushing. In 2015, they successfully petitioned for the true crime television show Cold Justice to take on the case.
That obviously didn't get the point across. Have you tried the not texting like a dipshit strategy? Now, the front door to the apartment, it only locked or unlocked if you had a key. It wasn't one of those doors that when you close it, it automatically locks. And I think, unfortunately, we can say Anita did not lock the door. So that meant it must have been one of the 4 people, well, the other 3 people who did have a key. Nicole, the maintenance guy, or the landlord. And regarding the screen window that had the slash in it, where the maintenance guy would say it looked like somebody had slashed it and maybe exited out the screen window, well, police would reenact going in and out via the screen window, and even through their reenactments, they would find it was impossible to go in or out via the screen window without tearing it more. There was no tears on the screen window when the police found it. Even with the smallest person, the window was so small, it just simply wasn't possible to enter or exit through the cut screen window. So that meant that the cut to the screen window, it was just done for show. Nobody had actually used it as an entry or exit point. Again, pointing to, it must have been somebody with a key.
And this, right here, is where the whole thing goes from a frustrating, unsolved murder to a masterclass in how not to run an investigation. Because cold justice didn't just review the evidence. They embedded themselves in it, working directly with the Minot Police Department to build a case. The show zeroed in on Nicole with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. They unearthed a handful of people who claimed that, in the years after the murder, Nicole had drunkenly confessed to killing Anita. One man said she'd told him at a party, "So long as I keep my mouth shut, I'll be fine."
As the 10th anniversary approaches, Anita Knutson's family and police reflect.
Nearly 15 years go by, and still no arrests in the case.
Previously on Cold Justice, Steve and I arrived in North Dakota to help the Minot Police Department investigate the 2007 murder of 18-year-old college student Anita Knudson.
According to a rumor from one of our witnesses, Anita's roommate, Nicole Thomas, sometime after Anita Knutson's murder, actually got drunk at a party and confessed to killing her.
So new investigations plus new TV show led to some new things. New interviews were done, fresh tips came in, and a man came forward. He said that about a year or so, after Anita's death, somebody drunkenly confessed to him that they had murdered Anita. Can I shock you that someone was Nicole?
She got drunk and she told you that she killed Anita. Do you remember that?
Correct, yes. I mean, she was belligerently drunk, and that's what was said, and there was multiple people that heard it, and then I tried to get her to say it when she was sober, but she wouldn't.
Another recalled her saying she'd stabbed her roommate after an argument about, wait for it, an alarm clock. A third witness, Nicole's own aunt, testified that Nicole described seeing Anita's body covered with a white robe and mentioned the killer had washed the knife in the bathroom sink. Details that, in theory, only the killer should know. Now, ask yourself what you would trust more: a 20-year-old memory of a sloshed party conversation, or the fact that the same television host, who helped extract these recollections, has a documented history of Brady violations and paying jailhouse informants to fabricate confessions. I'm not kidding. Kelly Siegler, the former Texas prosecutor who fronts Cold Justice, has been rebuked by federal courts for hiding exculpatory evidence and using prison snitches as agents of the state to illegally question defendants.
Frickin' TV show did more damage than good. So, I'm sure probably a few of you watching are fans of the TV show Cold Justice. If you don't know, it's hosted by Kelly Ziegler, who was a Texas state prosecutor. And wow, she has a shocking number of controversies behind her. Now, the tagline that's associated with Ms. Ziegler is that she's the prosecutor, Texas prosecutor, gunslinger. She never lost a case. Like 200 prosecutions. She's never got them. She's shit hot. She's got it. And that fact is pretty true, actually. She has never lost a case. But what's interesting is she's notorious for going after innocent people. It seems that circumstantial evidence and jailhouse confessions are her two go-to pieces of evidence for getting those prosecutions. She also has secured the death penalty in 19 cases. Oh my god, I love her so much. So this is wild. In 2002, she got Ronald Pribble sentenced to death. And then in 2020, that was overturned. This is because she hid what was called exculpatory evidence from the defense. And right, you're gonna love this. She provided undisclosed favors to prison informants in exchange for them fabricating confessions, and violated Pribble's right to representation by using prison informants as agents of the prosecution to illegally question him while he was in custody. She was literally paying other jailers to, secretly question him.
She's put 19 people on death row, and at least one of those convictions was overturned because she withheld evidence. The show itself has been sued for defamation multiple times after pointing its finger at suspects who were later cleared.
Here's another thing about the entire TV show, Cold Justice. They have been sued. The producers and Kelly Ziegler herself have been sued, from what I could find, at least 5 times for defamation. Mainly due to the TV show saying, we got him. And then either the person they say they got, the person they're claiming is guilty, the case falls apart at trial, or the prosecutor saying there's not enough evidence. And so these are people she's saying on Cold Justice that are guilty, we got them, and then they're not actually guilty, So
when Cold Justice swept into Minot, patted themselves on the back, and announced they'd solved the case, I'd argue they did more damage than good. If you noticed the red flags before the arrest, congratulations. You were well ahead of the investigators who decided a TV production timeline was a good substitute for physical evidence. Because physical evidence is exactly what this case didn't have.
Just rubs my tummy the wrong way. But with the story of the confession and all the rumors over the years, Nicole Rice, she was arrested and she was charged with Anita's murder. A circumstantial case, but a case. Now, we've seen plenty of cases where circumstantial evidence got the job done. But in those cases, the circumstantial evidence, it comes from different sources. Someone heard, they were seen, they had something on them, a little lie here and there, which all adds up and adds up. But in this case, all the circumstantial evidence comes from one place. She said, he said, I heard.
Finally, with the help of cold justice, we were able to move forward and regain focus. Due to the resources, logistics, planning, and experts they were able to provide, we were able to obtain an arrest warrant for Nicole Rice.
No DNA tying Nicole to the bedroom. No fingerprints on the knife. No blood in her car. No murder weapon stashed in her belongings.
There was no DNA, there was no fingerprints, there was no murder weapon tied to her, no blood evidence, no forensic evidence placed her in Anita's bedroom at the time of the murder. Prosecutors were asking the jury to piece together this entire puzzle from circumstances, from recollections, and almost entirely from witness testimony that came from 2 decades ago. And 2 decades is a long time.
The entire prosecution case rested on witness recollections from parties where everyone was, by their own admission, well past sober, and when Nicole finally stood trial in March of 2025, nearly 18 years after Anita's death, the defense dismantled it piece by piece. They argued the TV show had created a media circus, pressuring the state's attorney to file charges on a case that would never have seen a courtroom otherwise. The jury agreed. After a trial built on shifting alibis and drunk rumors, Nicole Rice, she'd married by then, was found not guilty.
And at the end of the trial, Nicole Rice was found not guilty.
421, verdict form. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn, find the defendant Nicole Aaron Rice not guilty of the information dated at Grand Forks, North Dakota, this 26th day of March 2025.
Is this the jury's verdict? Can you calm down a little bit, please? Is this the jury's verdict? Okay, the juror nodded, jury leader nodded. Ms. Sorgan, do you wish the jury polled?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Sand, do you wish the jury polled?
No, sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thank you very much for your service. We appreciate the time that you've allotted for this case. You are now excused. My admonition no longer applies to you, so you can talk about this case if you choose to do so, and you can also not talk about the case if you choose to do so. Please rise. Ms. Rice, you've been found not guilty. You are discharged. Thank you. This hearing is closed. Thank you, Your Honor.
She was free to go.
The verdict came back and the courtroom erupted. She was free. And legally, the case is over. Double jeopardy attaches. Even if a DNA match dropped from the sky tomorrow, Nicole Rice cannot be tried again for the murder of Anita Knudson.
We do not know who murdered Anita Knudson. Legally, the case is over. The mystery is not over. But the thing is, even if they did find more information that conclusively proved that Nicole Rice murdered Anita Knudson, she could not be charged again. She could not be charged again with the same crime. What a load of shit on both sides. Did Nicole do it? I don't know. The prosecution honestly was pretty bad with what they were bringing forward. I likely would have voted not guilty, honestly, because, guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And the entire case was based on what people think they heard at parties where they themselves were likely drunk.
So where does that leave us? With a locked door, 4 keys, and a dead college student who wanted nothing more than to teach children, who once stood in a North Dakota field and narrates a ginormous tornado bearing down on her with the glee of a girl who found the world magnificent.
Who likely could have done it is that they're not guilty, and that's what the jury read, and you cannot charge that person again. I mean, what's the win here? What's the justice here? Or maybe this is just one of those cases that's meant to be unsolved forever. Either way, Anita Knudson, she deserved justice, and her family deserve justice. They deserve better than uncertainty. Thank you so much for watching, folks. It means a lot to me that you're here. Hope you enjoyed this little video, and I'll see you, as always, in the next little video. But until then, please take care of each other. Please take care of yourselves.
I keep coming back to that image of Anita Knudson, reporting live from nowhere, fearless and full of life, completely unaware that someone close to her would soon hold a knife to her throat. Did Nicole do it? Probably. I'd put money on probably. But would I have voted guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, based on what was presented in that courtroom? I don't think I could have. And the jury couldn't either. The justice system demands more than probably. It demands certainty. This case never gave us that.